Thanks for coming out and watching the oxymoronic Reddit Professional Show, where I showcase the best and worst of the internet. Here I comment on brilliant and hilarious comment chains regarding dumb shit on the internet for you to enjoy. Make sure to subscribe, hit the little bell button so that you get notifications every time we come up with a new video. Enjoy this week's show.
Today I learned Arnold Schwarzenegger wasn't allowed to dub his own role in Terminator in German, as his accent is considered very rural by German/Austrian standards, and it would be too ridiculous to have a death machine from the future come back in time and sound like a hillbilly. Hasta la vista, baby. Roughly translated to, you've eaten your last haw, I'll be back. Roughly translated to, y'all come back now, you hear? You're terminated. Roughly translated to, we don't take kindly to your kind around here. I need your clothes, your boots, and your motorcycle. Roughly translated to, hey feller, mind if I borrow that shirt and your bike? I know now why you cry. Roughly translated to, what are ya, some kind of sissy? But it's something I can never do. Roughly translated to, ha, gay, run. Roughly translated to, come on now, get. No, his accent does not sound rural, rather Arnie's accent is just Austrian. When dubbing in German, only a standard German accent is accepted. This way the role stays neutral, instead of having some type of regional accent. Hitler also spoke with an Austrian accent, but his accent was slightly different from Arnie's since he was from the Linz area. Yet this is misleading. I don't think Arnie does the German dubbing in any of his films. There's a strong difference between Austrian and standard German. They do the same for any Austrian actor. I think Danberg has most of Arnold's dubs. Also, dubbing is a special skill that you have to master in order to do it properly. When Antonio Banderas started working in Hollywood, in the beginning he used to dub himself into Spanish and the result wasn't specially good. After a few films, someone realized that letting him be dubbed by a professional actor like anyone else and have a good final result was better than having him do it and keep his original voice. We got used to hearing him speak with a different voice in his American movies and the result was better. In Germany almost every movie is dubbed, so there are very good specialists for that. You usually hear whenever an actor decides to dub themselves. Diane Kruger does that and it always sounds just a little too plain, not emotional enough. This thread made me wonder what it sounds like when Arnold speaks German. I came across this video, and while I'm not very familiar with the German language, I have to say he sounds a bit odd. German speakers, has Arnold picked up a bit of American accent? German speakers, has Arnold picked up a bit of American accent? Not in the slightest, on the contrary. His accent is very strictly German, and, although I wouldn't say hillbilly, I'd definitely say more rural, more southern, Germany, that is, not America. I can definitely see why this be unfit for Terminator. He sounds like an old-school nature documentary dubber or something along those lines. German dubs of action movies are very strictly Hochdeutsch, which is basically accent-free German, mostly because the movies are seldomly set in Germany and any discernible regional German accent would be off-putting. It's as if a character set to be a native Alaskan would start speaking with a really thick Australian accent. It'd throw you off. I believe it. My family comes from outside Munich. It's the same dialect as Austria, aptly called Austro-Bavarian. Of the German dialects, it's the most different from Hochdeutsch, which is the same basic thing as received pronunciation is in English. My grandmother always said that the rest of Germany saw them as country bumpkins. Even the name of the Nazi party comes from this. Its formal name is Nationalsozialistische Deutsche Arbeiterpartei. The word Nazi not only is handy shorthand, but it's a shortening of the name Ignaz, which is a very country name there. It's like the party that ruled the CSA just happening to be shortened to Bubba Party or something. A lot of people didn't take them seriously at first, because to many it was easy to dismiss as a movement of ignorant country yahoos. It's funny, because a lot of German stereotypes are Bavarian lederhosen, Dirndl, the German peasant dress, Oktoberfest, the Tyrolean hat, giant pretzels, and most of the well-known German beers. It's like the rest of the world thinking the whole US is stereotypical Texas, down to the conservatism, cowboy hats and other Western clothes, and food, steak, barbecue, etc. Ganz genau. Honestly, this thread is full of misinformation. Arnold is Austrian. He has an Austrian accent. We all have Austrian accents here, some more easily understood by Germans, Vienna, some impossible to understand even for Austrians, Tyrol/Tyrol, Vorarlberg. Arnold has a pretty standard Austrian accent that every Austrian from every district, except for Vienna and Tyrol and VAB, is likely to understand. He does not sound hillbilly for us at all. In fact, There is no such thing as a hillbilly accent here, just more rural and more urban ones with slightly different pronunciation and words used. Also, saying it's weird that he talks like that when he was raised near a big city is just funny to Austrians. Graz is the second biggest city with about 300,000 in population. They also talk exactly the same there. No hate for those who said anything else or said he sounds like a hillbilly, just wanted to clear SMTH up. Source: Austrian. I talk exactly the same on the other side of the country. Sounds misleading to me. Arnold's German was fine by Austrian standards when he started out. Since he spent so much time in the US, his current German is full of English nouns and his pronunciations have changed. He talks in his own American-sounding German. If he wasn't deemed good enough for dubbing himself, then either because A, all Austrian accents sound rural for German speakers from Germany, or B, his American accent was deemed too odd. Yes, he just sounded Austrian, in a nice way. But that might have been the issue. The role demanded a rather harsh Northern German accent. Not soft and melodic Southern. Not sure why they ran with his accent in America, other than the fact that their dubbing skills are atrocious, so it was probably for the best. Christian F. hast been dubbed if you ever want to watch a film that has been utterly and completely ruined by dubbing. He doesn't really sound like a hillbilly, he just sounds extremely Austrian. The article probably compares him to a hillbilly because the only strong American dialects commonly heard are Southern rural and hillbilly accents. Black accents count too but don't make sense in the context of describing how Arnold's accent sounds, since Black English holds a unique place historically and culturally. I like to compare Austrian dialects to Scottish ones. Scots aren't necessarily hillbillies, but they do sound distinctively Scottish. And having a Scottish Terminator in the US dub would sound just as out of place as having an Austrian one in German dub. I'd just like to say that Arnold embodies everything it means to be an American. He came here with nothing more than a dream and conquered every challenge he took on. From bodybuilder, to actor, to politician, to humanitarian, he represents the best of us. He is a perfect example of what this country was set up for. An opportunity to be taken, a dream to be realized. Proof that hard work pays off. An example for others. I only wish that he could be president. I'm so proud to call him a fellow countryman. As I recall, there were similar issues with Overwatch localization voice acting. Pardon if my memory is not awesome, I learned all this at a panel last year at a con. For example, Charlotte Chung, D.Va, is Japanese and Korean, and is fluent in English, Japanese, and Korean. Even though the English voice actor could also do Korean, they had a Korean voice actor do it to get a little different accent. Charlotte did get to put a word in here and there where the translation didn't match English very well. Similar story for Mercy. Lucy Pohl is fluent in German, but a separate German voice actress was hired. Lucy did get to help correct grammar and context to make the German script closer to what the intent originally was in English. I was going to make a joke about how ridiculous it would be for an undercover killer infiltration android to have a German accent. Then I kinda thought of how a war podcast I listened to talked about how Americans saw German soldiers in WW2 as machines. And maybe it made more sense nearly 40 years ago to see a robot as having a German accent. The podcast also talked about how American soldiers saw the Japanese as religious zealots. Their approach and attitude to war was so radically different from the Germans and themselves. That's got to me pretty scary, seeing one enemy as an unfeeling and hyper-efficient machine and another that's a completely unpredictable self-sacrificing zealot. I'm sure cultural differences still appear when it comes to warfare. I'm just thinking out loud now.
If you enjoyed this week's effective way to waste time, hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this. If you are enjoying the series, leave me a comment below. A special shout out to the content creators. You frickin' rock.